Translation, please.
The supreme occupation for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self.
So this is answer to which question? What is the first question? Tell what's the first question? Yes, what is for the ultimate well-being and the ultimate benefit for everyone. And so the answer that's being given here by Sutta Goswami is Savai Pumsam for everyone, for mankind, for everyone. It's not according to time, place, circumstances for this section of people, that section of people. No. It is Pumsam for everyone. Parodharma, and the topmost, transcendental, sublime dharma, occupation. We already discussed about dharma previously. What is that? Yato bhakti. Bhakti unto whom? Adokshaja. Prabhupada in his lecture, he says, when we speak of bhakti, it only means Krishna. Bhakti to some devata, bhakti to some Shiva or Durga or Ganesh or some politician, it's all concocted. When we speak of bhakti, it only means Krishna, who is Adokshaja. What is the meaning of Adokshaja? Beyond Akshaja. Akshaja means sense perception. So the Supreme Lord is beyond sense perception. Prabhupada gives another meaning of Adokshaja. Somebody knows? Yes? Yes, good. This is the other meaning Prabhupada gives. That which cannot be described by words from A to Ksha. So that personality is Adokshaja. Cannot be described by mundane words, mundane sound vibration. That's the meaning of Adokshaja. And so therefore, the Supreme Ato Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam indriye. So grahyam indriye, materialistic senses cannot understand the Supreme Lord. So what is the way or how to perform this bhakti to Adokshaja, the Supreme Lord? It has to be performed ahituki apratihata. So ahituki, Prabhupada translates it as causeless. It also means without motives, and apratihata, unbroken, without interruption. And when there is this quality of devotional service, ahituki apratihata, when that quality of devotional service is there, then the result is yayatma suprasiddhati. Then the atma, the self, of course, atma also means the body, atma also means the mind. At all levels, one becomes satisfied when that quality of devotional service is there. And so therefore, Srila Prabhupada in his lectures describes how everyone is looking for satisfaction, everyone is looking for happiness, but everyone is looking for that in the wrong place, in the wrong direction. And so therefore, the only way one can find that true happiness is by this quality of devotional service. Prabhupada in the purport speaks about the Pravritti Marg and Nivritti Marg. The Pravritti Marg of the path of sense enjoyment and the Nivritti Marg of the path of renunciation. And he describes how the Pravritti Marg, where one is trying to find sense enjoyment in the material worlds, is useless because material existence is temporary, illusory, full of miseries. There is no happiness at all. Not a good news, isn't it? No happiness at all. Prabhupada in his lectures, he says that actually. There is no happiness in this material world. Sometimes Prabhupada would say, yes, there is some happiness and some misery, and then Prabhupada would correct himself. Actually, there is no happiness. Correct. Very nice statement. Yes. So yes, anything one thinks to be happiness is actually only an illusion. And therefore further he writes, there is just the futile attempt to get rid of the miseries, and temporary cessation of misery is falsely called happiness. What is Prabhupada's example for this? Yes, Bhakti? Yes, the dunking the person within water and then bringing him up, and the person thinks, now I'm happy, but then that's only temporary cessation of misery, which one falsely thinks to be happiness. Therefore, the path of progressive material enjoyment, which is temporary, miserable, and illusory. Three adjectives: temporary, illusory, and miserable. That is material worlds. Is inferior, but devotional service to the Supreme Lord, which leads one to eternal, blissful, and all cognizant life, is called the superior quality of occupation. This is sometimes polluted when mixed with the inferior quality. For example, adoption of devotional service for material gain is certainly an obstruction to the progressive path of renunciation. Renunciation or abnegation for ultimate good is certainly a better occupation than enjoyment in the disease condition of life. Such enjoyment only aggravates the symptoms of disease and increases duration. Therefore, devotional service to the Lord must be pure in quality, that is, without the least desire for material enjoyments. One should therefore accept the superior quality of occupation in the form of devotional service of the Lord without any tinge of unnecessary desire, fruitive action, and philosophical speculation. This alone can lead one to the perpetual solace in his service. So this is the explanation for ahaituki. No motivation in one's practices of devotional service. And so Srila Prabhupada explains how, yes, people practice religion essentially for satisfaction of material desires, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. But then that is not parodharma, that is not the supreme occupation. The supreme occupation is devotional service which is practiced without any motive. As long as there is any motive, there will always be anxiety. Verse? Yes, bhukti mukti siddhi kami sakale ashanta krishna bhakta nishkama ataiva shanta. So therefore, as long as one has all these desires for sense enjoyment in whatever ways, gross or subtle. So there could be desires for gross sense enjoyment, and there could be desires for subtle sense enjoyment. So puja, la, pratishtha, these are subtle sense enjoyments, which, as the Acharyas explain, so deep-rooted especially for the transcendentalists, renunciants. They may give up all types of gross sense enjoyment, but the subtle sense enjoyment, which is like subtle sex life, is very deep-rooted, very difficult to give up. And so therefore, when we speak of pure devotional service, then it is anya vilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishna anushilanam. So it is only meant for the pleasure of Krishna, what Krishna wants. So one is only interested in that, what Krishna wants. So as long as one is thinking about myself, what I want, self-centered, then it is always a cause of so much of distress. The Bhagavad Gita describes that as long as there is Rajogun, so material desires are usually as a result of Rajogun and Tamagun. And what is the consequence of Rajogun? What does the Bhagavad Gita say? Huh? Okay. But what is the phal or the results of? Okay, poison. When poison? Say that. Rajasastu phalam dukkham. That is what Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying. Rajasastu phalam dukkham. When there is Rajogun, the result is always misery. And so it applies to devotional service also. When devotional service is contaminated by the mode of passion, result is definitely going to be misery. So as we know, later on in the third canto, Lord Kapila is describing about devotional service in the three modes. And so therefore, the result of contamination in our practices of devotional service always leads to misery, frustration, and all that. And so therefore, even though we may have some contaminations within our practices of devotional service now because of our deep conditionings, but our goal should be very clear, and that is we want to become free from those contaminations. That goal should be very clear. That essence must be very clearly understood. So therefore, in the practice of devotional service, always focusing on the essence is very important. The tendency in the material world, influenced by the illusory energy, is to go off balance, and we tend to lose focus of the essence in our practices of devotional service. Gaur Govind Maharaj, he speaks on this point, and he speaks about how transcendentalists, they get deviated from the essence. And one of the prime causes for deviation is pratishtha. And then he quotes Raghunath Das Goswami, pratishtera asha, shukrera vishtha. But still we find it so relishable. That's our unfortunate position. And then he quotes Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he tells the story of, I told it in one Bhagavatam class, I suppose. I don't know if somebody remembers. Somebody remembers the story about focusing on the essence? Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur story? The Haritaki story? Anyone remembers? Okay, fine. So we'll repeat it. So he tells that how those who are bogus spiritualists, their main goal is to achieve two things, pranam and pranami. You know what's pranam and pranami? So in any case, there was one spiritual master, and then his disciple invited him to his home, and for lunch. And so the disciple offered a big feast, very nice feast. After the feast, he wanted to offer some digestive. And so he offered some haritaki. I personally have not seen. How many of you have seen haritaki? Okay, only the agriculturalists. Okay. So you should reveal to them the unknown truths. Okay. It's powder form. Anyway, he didn't offer powder form, he offered the fruits. And so he thought, Gaur Govind Maharaj says he was a mental speculator. And so therefore he speculated, and he thought that in most fruits, the skin is to be thrown away. So he threw away the skin, and he thought what is in the center is most valuable. And so the seed is in the center. And so he had all the seeds on a plate, nicely decorated, very nice. And then he brought the plate in front of the Guru and said, Guru Maharaj, for you. And then the Guru asked, what is this? Guru Maharaj, this is haritaki. Haritaki? But what is this? This is only seed. Yes, Guru Maharaj. Usually the skin is what is we throw away, and usually what is in the center is most valuable. You are a speculator. You're useless. You don't understand simple things. The Haridaki, the skin is what is most valuable, not the seeds. Throw them away. Sorry, Guru Maharaj. Sorry. Next time I'll be careful. So next day again, the disciple offered the feast to the Guru, and this time he thought of changing the menu. So this time he thought, let me offer elaichi. And he thought, okay, I have learnt my lesson yesterday, and I should be careful today. And so he followed the same principle that he had learnt the previous day. And so he thought, yes, this covering is very valuable. What's in the center is not. And so he did that. So he had all the peels of the elaichi put and what's in the center thrown away. And he had all the peels on the plate, very nicely decorated. And then he brought it before the Guru and said, Guru Maharaj, for you. So the Guru Maharaj picked up one of them and he said, kuch nahi andar. So what is this? Guru Maharaj, elaichi. But what is there? It is empty. There's nothing in it. Guru Maharaj, you told me yesterday, what's in center is not important. What's covering, that is important. Guru Maharaj said, useless, no brain. You don't understand what is the essence. What is to be kept and what is to be rejected, you don't understand. Asatyera satya karimani. What is asatya, you are accepting as satya. And what is satya, you are rejecting as asatya. This is the position of the transcendentalist who doesn't understand what is the essence of spiritual life. Those who don't understand what is the essence of spiritual life mistake the essence to be non-essence and the non-essence to be the essence. And thus one gets deviated from the true path of religion. But then Sutta Goswami is pointing out, this is not parodharma. Parodharma means ahituki bhakti, that bhakti which is free of all such contaminations which divert us from the real goal. And so therefore, it is very important for us in our practices of devotional service to regularly investigate our motives and think, am I going in the right direction or not? So yes, we may have come with certain motivations, but as I'm progressing in my practices, am I improving as far as those motivations are concerned, or am I still caught up in the entanglement of unlimited material desires, which by the power of the illusory energy are being justified as necessary for progress. Yes, Vidam.
If there is anything can be justified through philosophy, and how ISKCON is meant for giving pure devotional service to whole humanity. But while practicing Krishna consciousness in ISKCON, believing just sometimes suppose we are supposed to give to the temple, to the Lord, but sometimes while giving, we also keep for ourselves. That means, so suppose somebody needs just paid servant, paid pujari, anything. So how it is said, it may said like that, this is for livelihood, anna vilasta sunyam par one may give. How one is practicing pure devotional service. So can you please little bit elaborate it?
Devotional service is individual. And every individual has to take the responsibility to introspect his own motivations. It is very difficult to institutionalize every aspect of devotional service. There can be certain broad principles which can be generalized and institutionalized for everyone. And there may be practical ways of running the society. But at the same time, it is absolutely and totally left up to every individual to think for himself, what is my inner motivation? Because those motivations may not be grossly visible, and nor is it possible for others to judge. And sometimes there could always be cases of mistaken judgments. And therefore, unless things become too gross and affect the community of devotees in general, it is best that we try and apply these principles on an individual basis, rather than getting into the zone of judging others and bringing upon the consequences of mistaken judgments and mistaken decisions. Okay.
Thank you. Good.
Now, the Acharyas also comment about ahaituki, as Srila Prabhupada is, in the word-to-word meaning, saying causeless. And so therefore, the important point that is being discussed here is how devotional service is causeless. The subject has been, of course, been discussed at great length in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. So since all of you are Bhakti Shastri scholars, so we would like to hear from you on this subject matter of how pure devotional service is causeless. Yes, Balabhadra Kripapru.
Even without qualification, we are getting opportunity to serve Lord, getting association of devotees, getting opportunity to engage in all devotional service.
Okay, good. That's one understanding of causeless devotional service. Yet we are looking at from another angle of view, and that is how pure devotional service has no cause. That's the meaning of causeless. So you're talking about causeless mercy, but then, because after all your name is Balbhadra Kripa, so you're thinking of causeless mercy. But here the context is a little different, and that is pure devotional service has no cause.
Pure devotional service doesn't have any material cause.
Good.
So it is because it is completely independent.
Good.
And it is not caused by any karma, gnana or yoga.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Okay, somebody would like to elaborate a little more? Okay, Bhakti Prabhu and then Pitamacha. Kya ho raha hai?
So bhakti sanjayate bhakti. Bhakti doesn't has any cause other than bhakti itself. It is coming, the cause is bhakti itself.
Okay, good. A little more?
Similar, I had the same thing. Just like bhaktya sanjatya bhaktya. And just suppose fire. Fire to ignite, fire is okay. Fire itself is a fire. So if you want to ignite the fire has to be there. There's no other cause to bring fire.
Okay, good point. Somebody like to elaborate a little more because, okay, Samarpan Gopra.
That even if it is coming from some devotee, that devotee is not cause, but the bhakti in heart of that devotee is the cause, which is completely independent. So that is madhyamadhikari.
Right. So somebody could say, it appears as if the Lord is partial. Some people get bhakti, some people don't get bhakti. We all have experience, isn't it? So all of you are preachers, you conduct programs, you conduct a one-time program, there are 200 people who come. We all know the science of elimination that happens. And so then we conduct DYS, then you have say 50 or 60, and then what happens after that? Okay, then so then why all the 200 or all the 50, why all of them didn't get bhakti? That means the Lord has given bhakti to some, He has not given bhakti to some others. So it appears as if the Lord is partial. How do you explain this? Yes, Prabhu.
The impartial aspect of the Lord is explained in Ye Yatamam Prapadyante Tam Satya Bhajan.
Okay. Could you elaborate a little more?
For general people, as they approach Lord, like Lord also reciprocate. But those who serves Lord in bhakti, them Lord treats them like in a different way.
Okay, that is
special.
correct. But here we are talking about, say, a set of totally new people. Nobody has begun bhakti as such, so still we find some take up to the process, some don't take up to the process. So why the difference? Yes, bro. Okay, okay, good point. They may not have enough Agyat Sukruti, so in some cases Agyat Sukruti is matured, some cases Agyat Sukruti is not matured. Okay, that point is accepted. At the same time, we find that still there is a difference, isn't it? Still there is a difference. Some people get Agyat Sukruti, some people don't get Agyat Sukruti also. So many people see the Lord's Rath Yatra. Some people, of course, everyone gets some Sukruti, but then some people become serious, some people don't become serious. Why the difference? Yes, Prashant.
Krishna has given the minute independence to all the living entities, and it depends on how they use that independence.
Okay, very good point. Yes, the minute independence of the living entity is always there, and Krishna doesn't interfere with that minute independence. That is correct. But at the same time, we find that yes, even with the presence of that minute independence, then why is it that some utilize it in the proper direction, some don't utilize it in the proper direction? Why the difference? Okay, it is independent. So then the next question is then why some are being influenced, some are not being influenced? Yes, Selection.
It's intense eagerness to receive bhakti is more important than.
Okay, intense eagerness to receive bhakti, that is fine. Okay.
Also, another factor is that the Madhyamadhikari, by his association, he can create that Agyat Sukriti, even a person is not qualified. And if he accepts, then he becomes qualified to.
Good, that's an important point. Srila Prabhupada explains here in the first canto of the Bhagavatam later on in connection to Narad Muni. And there he explains that how he makes a statement. He says, in devotional service, independence is the pivot. This is what Prabhupada writes. Independence is the pivot. Engineers understand very well, right? Pivot. That is the central theme or the central point. Independence. Independence on the part of the preacher. So Narad Muni, he is as independent as the Lord. So we all know the Lord is fully Swarat, and to the degree the living entity surrenders to the Lord, to that degree he also enjoys independence. Can you cite some analogy which Prabhupada gave? Yes, good. Explain a little more.
He says if son is very responsible and exactly follows the way father wants him to do, so then father gives treasury lock, everything.
Yes. So just like the father gives more independence to the son based upon how he is responsible and does not misuse the independence. So to the degree one misuses the independence, then the independence is curtailed. And Prabhupada explains that is the law of the state also, same thing. So citizen is properly following the rules and regulations of the government, he is independent. The moment he is being mischievous, his independence is curtailed. Then he is shackled, put in the jail. Same principle applies. So to the degree the devotee does not misuse his independence, to the degree he follows, then Krishna gives him more independence. So therefore Narad Muni has supreme independence, as much as the Lord practically. And he's just traveling everywhere with his veena. And he comes across King Prachin Barishad and he thinks, good candidate. Anybody can question Narad Muni, why did you find only this king? Why not some other king? No, I found he's a good candidate. Then he goes there, he finds the sons of Daksha. How many? 10,000, right? And then 1,000. He finds them good candidates, he gives his mercy there. Then he finds this Mrigari. So Narad Muni, he's utilizing his independence to choose whom to give his mercy. And Krishna's mercy follows the devotee's mercy. This is the policy which Krishna himself has made. Krishna himself has made this policy that my mercy follows the devotee's mercy. This is also explained in the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. So when Narad Muni, after giving instructions to Dhruva, he went to Vaikuntha and he told the Supreme Lord Narayan, my dear Lord, there in that Madhuvan there is this boy who is performing so many austerities to achieve you. Please give your mercy to him. So Narayan asked Narad, have you given your mercy? So Narad said, yes, I have given my instructions. Okay, then I will go. So that is the Lord's policy. Therefore, yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. This is the Lord's policy. Krishna's mercy follows devotee's mercy. And the devotee is independent in offering his mercy. And so therefore, the bhakti comes from bhakta. And so therefore there is no other cause of bhakti. The cause of bhakti is a bhakta. And so therefore there is no other cause. The karma, jnana, yoga, tapasya, all these are not the causes of bhakti. Therefore bhakti is said to be causeless. There is no other cause. The cause is bhakti itself. And so it comes from the bhakta, but it comes from the bhakta means because the bhakta has bhakti within his heart. And it is that bhakti shakti which is transferred to the other living beings. The bhakti shakti. The bhakti shakti instills faith. Faith is generated by association. And so therefore, Prabhupada in 9.13 purport, what's 9.13? 1.3. Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, 13th verse, famous. Yes, Mahatmanas tumam bhavata deivim prakritim ashrita bhajanti ananya manaso jnatva bhuta. So Prabhupada writes in that purport, Mahatma, how one can become Mahatma? By association with other Mahatmas. Anyone can become Mahatma by association with other Mahatmas. It is possible. Guru Kripa Maharaj, now is Guru Kripa Prabhu, he tells this pastime. So when he was, so at that time, he and his team of devotees were collecting huge amounts of money for especially the Krishna Balaram temple and Juhu and of course Mayapur also, all the projects they were collecting. You can still find his name right near the entrance of the Krishna Balaram temple. You've seen? Huh? Yes, there's a plaque right near the entrance. This temple has been built by the generous donations of Guru Kripa Swami. You can see that. So they were collecting huge amounts of money, especially in Japan. And so he tells this pastime. And so when he was one day in Vrindavan, and so it was early morning. Prabhupada would rise up early, 12:30. So at that time, he calls his secretary Brahmanand Prabhu and says, go and call Guru Kripa. So Brahman Prabhu went, knocked on Guru Kripa Prabhu's door, and he opened the door. He was obviously sleeping. He opened the door, and there was Brahmanand Prabhu standing in front of him, and Brahmanand Prabhu said, Prabhupada is calling. What? This time? For what? I don't know, Prabhupada is calling. Okay. So he sort of dresses himself up and he goes to Srila Prabhupada's room, offers his obeisances, and he sits in front of Srila Prabhupada. And first question Prabhupada asks, what were you doing? Oh, at this time, what do you expect? Of course, he didn't say it, but that was his thought process. He says, of course, obviously I was sleeping, Prabhupada. Next question, why were you sleeping? This was too unexpected. He didn't expect this. He said, Prabhupada, I mean, this time I was sleeping. Why were you sleeping? I was tired throughout the day. I've been doing services, tired. But I'm not sleeping. I'm translating. And so he replied, Prabhupada, you are a Mahatma, you can do that. And Prabhupada shot back, why don't you become Mahatma? So the point is, yes, so it is possible for everyone to become Mahatma, provided one agrees to follow the Mahatma.
Hare Krishna. So just this Mahatma, this devotee's mercy, we are getting devotional service. Prabhupada himself, he wanted the whole world to become Krishna conscious. So actually many people, they didn't took the devotional service. So if that is the cause, at the same, if the devotee, those who are receiving the mercy from the devotee, if they are not eager, then they have not got the mercy. So then how it is that only devotee, if they want to give, then only it is.
Okay. We find, as you rightly pointed out, Srila Prabhupada desired that the whole world become Krishna conscious. And because he had the desire, he traveled throughout the globe 14 times, tirelessly writing these books. For what? Because he had that desire. When a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, how did we get this priceless treasure of devotional service? We had no qualification. Prabhupada said, very humbly, I created that qualification. It is only because of Srila Prabhupada's desire that now so many people are being given a chance to practice devotional service. The chance has been given to millions. The chance to practice devotional service has been given to millions all over the world by Srila Prabhupada and his followers. And yes, millions of people have received Agyat Sukruti. But yet, after receiving that, how they utilize it is the free will of the living entity. But the chance has been given to so many by Srila Prabhupada's great desire. So yes, so that is why we are all sitting here. Only because one person desired that the whole world be Krishna conscious. Does it help? Go ahead. Yes, so everyone had the opportunity. Some took it up and some misused it, or misused their free will to not become serious. The free will is always there. Opportunity has been given to so many. Some took advantage of the opportunity, some misused it. That is why Prabhupada is writing, independence is the pivot. So there is independence on the part of the preacher and there is independence on the part of the receiver. Both have their independence. So the preacher is using his independence to give Krishna's mercy. He is only becoming a Y medium. If he begins to think it is my mercy, that's a problem for him. He is only becoming a Y medium of Krishna's mercy. But then he has that independence to choose, okay, I'll go to this place, I'll go to this place. We make choices, isn't it? So that is the independence of the Madhyamadhikari preacher. And he goes, and then he gives Krishna's mercy in the form of transcendental sound vibration to a certain set of people. And some of them take it up, they become serious, some of them don't take it up. Why? Independence. Okay. Huh? Krishna chooses the devotee. Yes. Yes.
But And Swam Brut, that is sloka is that, Swam Brunute. Nayam, Nayam, Nayam.
Okay, Naim Atma Pravachanyan Labhya. Okay, fine. Yes, so that means there is no material qualification for devotional service. That is the meaning of that verse. The only cause of devotional service is bhakti. There is no other material. So Krishna may say, yes, I give bhakti, but Krishna has given that prerogative to his pure devotee. Yes, it is Krishna's mercy only. But who is going to be the distributor of that mercy? Krishna has given the independence to the Madhyamadhikari devotees. Okay? Fine. So that's the meaning of causeless. And apratihata means no interruption. No interruption. And in that connection, the verse is quoted from the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I suppose it's chapter number 29, verse number 11, where Lord Kapila is speaking about pure devotional service, comparing it to the Ganges, which flows uninterruptedly towards the ocean. And even though there may be so many obstacles and so many impediments, but still the Ganges flows over underneath and continues to flow towards the ocean. That's pure devotional service. And so therefore, in the Chatushloki Bhagavat, the Lord is speaking to Brahma, and in the third and in the fourth verse of the Chatushloki Bhagavat, the Lord says that this devotional service is Sarvatra Sarvada. Sarvatra means it can be practiced everywhere. Sarvada means at all times. And so Srila Prabhupada gives a very elaborate commentary on the verse, and he explains there that how devotional service can be practiced everywhere, at all times. Yesterday we were speaking about in the jail. And we also know about the salted bread. They didn't even have beads. They made beads out of breads. So everywhere, at all times. And there he explains that how devotional service can be practiced in the womb of the mother. Prahlad Maharaj. It can be practiced when one is young, when one is a child, Dhruva, and of course Prahlad is also there. And it can be practiced, and of course we also know of Narad boy who practiced. And it can also be practiced in young age, and we have so many examples throughout the Bhagavatam, filled with so many examples. And it can be also practiced in old age, like Jamil. And so at all times, practically from womb to tomb, one can practice. And it can be practiced practically the last minute of death. Katwang Maharaj. At all times, at all places, one can practice devotional service. No one can say, I have an impediment in the practice of my devotional service. Because of so and so reason, I cannot practice. No. It is possible that all times, in all circumstances, the practice of devotional service is definitely possible. And if one practices devotional service in this way, Krishna is pleased. And because Krishna is pleased, Yatma Suprasiddha. Krishna is satisfied, then the soul is satisfied. That is the scientific basis of Krishna consciousness.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Can I ask a question?
Okay, go ahead.
In this verse, he's saying, Savai Pumsam Parodharmo Yato Bhakti Rajokshya. Prabhupada said the supreme occupation is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service. So why is he not saying that supreme occupation is loving devotional service? It is something by which one will attain devotional service.
Okay, so the practice of, that's the point. Bhakti leads to bhakti. So by practicing bhakti, that leads to further development of bhakti. So one begins from the point of Ajnat Sukruti, that is also bhakti.
So Ajnat Sukruti, is it pure, is it Parodharma then?
Yes, it is parodharma. Why? Because it leads to the ultimate stage. It begins from that point. But then it's that Ajnat Sukruti which leads to more attraction. Then one comes to Sadhana Bhakti. Then Sadhana Bhakti, further development leads to Raganuga Bhakti. So that's how it progresses. Okay. Okay, fine. Let's see a few quotes of Srila Prabhupada on this verse. Okay, please read.
How to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no consideration of which type of dharma or faith you are following. It does not matter. You may become a Christian, you may become a Muhammadan, you may become a Hindu or whatever. It is a question of actual relationship, because living entity is part and parcel of Krishna, and the duty of part and parcel is to render service to the whole. Krishna came to establish this type of religion, this first class religion. So Srimad Bhagavatam says, Savai Pumso Paro Dharma.
Okay, fine. So Prabhupada very often spoke of this. It doesn't matter whether one is Hindu, Christian, Muslim, but if one comes to the point of developing love of gods, then that is the topmost religion. Okay, go ahead. Somebody else?
Your system of religion is first class. If you can develop your general love for Krishna or God, Adhukshaj, that is the test. You may advertise yourself, or I may advertise myself. I am a great religious person, but the test is how much you have learned to love God.
Okay, so that's the test. This religion, that religion, my practice, your practice, the test is how much one has developed love for God. Okay, somebody else?
Your business is to become a sincere devotee of Krishna, and without any expecting ahetuki, any success or failure, you do your duty and you will see, Krishna will see that you are successful. That is Krishna consciousness movement. Ahetuki apratihata, and you will feel satisfied. Yayatma suprasidati. As soon as you see, oh, I have done something for Krishna, devotee does not feel it, but when he sees that another man has become devotee, he becomes very satisfied. Yayatma suprasidati. So this is the process of Krishna conscious moment.
Very important point Srila Prabhupada is mentioning over here, as we have been discussing. So the devotee simply wants to be sincere and perform his duty, that's all, without so much bothering about success or failure. Success and failure, he leaves it in Krishna's hands. That is the basic platform of even Nishkam Karma Yoga. Nishkam Karma Yoga is performance of duty without attachment to the results. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So that's the basic platform. But then bhakti is something more than just being detached from the results, but then the devotee performs activities simply for the pleasure of Krishna. Again, the best example of this is Srila Prabhupada himself. So when he boarded the Jaladuta, he had no idea of what would be the results, whether there would be any success or failure. In one lecture, Srila Prabhupada says this, you may have heard it. So Srila Prabhupada says, when I reached your country, And I was thinking, when I tell these people, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, they will say, Swamiji, please go home. But he says, by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, now there are so many boys and girls. So, Srila Prabhupada, he had no big ideas, but he was fixed in duty. I simply have to perform my duty. And we know in the preface to the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada writes, towards the end, what does he write? Even if one person becomes a pure devotee, I will consider it the success of my moment. So that was Srila Prabhupada's very humble expectations. And so therefore, when he didn't expect something huge, but then of course, the Lord made it huge. But then he was simply interested in performing his duty. How many of you have heard the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita? Heard, not read, heard. How many hours lecture it is? Yes, it is about 3+ hours. Yes. Prabhupada has given that lecture very enthusiastically. Who was the audience? The dictaphone. That's all. No one else. Prabhupada was just doing his duty. That's all. So initially there was no one. Prabhupada was just doing his duty. So that's the meaning of ahituki. No motive. Only motive to please Guru and Krishna. That's all. Yes, bro.
When we are living in organization, so that time they also expect some result from us when they give us service. So that time, what should be our consciousness or what we should be thinking? Individual, this is good, but in organization?
Yes. So, we may expect results, we may plan for results. So, as one devotee put it, when we are performing our service, we perform our service with great enthusiasm as if the results totally depend on me. But after performing the service, then I depend totally on Krishna for the results. So when we are performing our service, yes, we do it with great enthusiasm, thinking that yes, I have to do my best to please Krishna. But then ultimately, results are dependent on Krishna. So yes, so one has to be detached from the results. So whether it is individual basis or institutional basis. So yes, we can expect, we can plan, but ultimately depend on Krishna. That has to be always the consciousness, individually or collectively. And that was how Srila Prabhupada functions. Srila Prabhupada definitely encouraged, inspired devotees to get the results. But at the same time, if he found that somebody was doing his best, he would be satisfied with that. Okay? Fine. Okay, another quote.
It is very difficult. You're trying to be happy.
You read something, no? Let somebody else.
It is very difficult. You are trying to be happy by adjustment of material conditions, but that is not possible. Maya is very strong. She will not let you become happy under a material condition. That is not possible. Then how one can become happy? Mama evai prapadyante maya metam tarantite. As soon as you become obedient, surrender to Krishna, you become transcendent to the laws of material nature. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashrita. Those who are Mahatmas, they are not under material condition. They are under spiritual guidance. Daivim prakritim ashrita. And what is their symptom? Bhajanti ananya manasa. Without any diversion, they are engaged in bhajan. Sharanam Kirtanam Vishnu. This is bhajan.
Okay, so everyone is trying to get satisfaction, everyone is trying to get happiness in this world, but then from material means one is trying to become happy and trying to make some adjustments in the material worlds. Prabhupada is saying, you are trying to be happy by adjustment of material conditions, but that is not possible. So everyone is trying to make some material adjustments. So even after coming to devotional service, we may try to make some material adjustments. Changing situations will make me happy. So changing service, changing departments, changing temples. So one may have an idea that by change, one will become happy. But making some material adjustments will not make one happy. The real happiness and satisfaction comes from only one source, and that is, yes, surrender to Krishna, pure devotional service to Krishna. That is the only way and means to achieve satisfaction. What's the next one? Okay, there we have one more, I suppose. Okay, read.
So if we actually want the solution of the problem of this material existence, as it is said, Yaya Atma Suprasidati. Yaya Atma Suprasidati. Su means very nicely. Prasidati becomes satisfied. Everyone is trying to be satisfied, peaceful in his mind. But that is not being happen. How it will happen? The direction is given here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Savai Pumsam Paro Dharma. That is first class religion. It doesn't matter whether you are following Christian religion or Hindu religion or Muslim religion or any religion. It does not matter. Therefore, our movement is Krishna consciousness. We do not talk of any religion. The consciousness should be changed. The material consciousness should be changed into spiritual consciousness. That is our propaganda.
That's the highlight of this quote here. The material consciousness should be changed to spiritual consciousness. That is what is Krishna consciousness, and that is what will really satisfy the soul. There is no other means of satisfaction. When we try to change, when we try to come to the platform of spiritual consciousness, then we can be satisfied. Okay, this is the next verse. Okay, let's go to the next verse. So how does the satisfaction manifest? That's the answer to this question is the next verse. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitah Janyatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahaitukam. Translation.
By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world.
So, this is the result of practicing devotional service, and this is how the satisfaction manifests. So, by performing Vasudeve Bhagavati, devotional service to Vasudev, by the process of Bhakti Yoga, the result is Janyati, it produces, gives rise to Ashu very soon, Vairagya, detachment, and Jnanam, that is knowledge. So here, the word ahaitukam, causeless, is used, causeless, because acquires causeless knowledge in the translation Prabhupada writes, because somebody may think that, first of all, the first point is, Jnana and Vairagya are not the causes of bhakti, rather they are the result of bhakti. So then, somebody may think, okay, somebody receives knowledge, transcendental knowledge, and one could utilize that knowledge for achieving liberation. So one has a goal of liberation. That is what the jnanis do. So jnanis are also cultivating knowledge. Why do they cultivate knowledge? For liberation. That is the purpose. And so therefore here, Sutta Goswami wants to make the point very clear that here the devotee doesn't have any motive in cultivating knowledge like the jnanis. So he wants to differentiate between the jnanis and the devotees and make the point very clear that as far as the devotees are concerned, the purpose of cultivating knowledge is only bhakti, it is not for liberation. So there is no cause or there is no motive for cultivating this knowledge as we find in the jnanis. And so there are the two results, that is Gyan, that is, this is transcendental knowledge, this is spiritual knowledge, this is knowledge about Bhagavan, Bhakti, and the Lord's abode and qualities and all that. Everything is in relationship to Bhagavan. That is the knowledge they obtain. And then there is Vairagya, and this Vairagya is not dry renunciation like the Jnanis and the Yogis, but this renunciation is renunciation on the spiritual platform. It is renunciation for the purpose of pleasing Krishna. Therefore, in the second paragraph of the purport, Prabhupada writes, the principles of knowledge and detachment are two important factors on the path of transcendentalization. The whole spiritual process leads to perfect knowledge of everything material and spiritual, and the results of such perfect knowledge are that one becomes detached from material affection and becomes attached to spiritual activities. Becoming detached from material things does not mean becoming inert altogether, as men with a poor fund of knowledge think. Neshkarma means not undertaking activities that will produce good or bad effects. Negation does not mean negation of the positive. Negation of the non-essentials does not mean negation of the essential. Similarly, detachment from material form does not mean nullifying the positive form. The bhakti cult is meant for realization of the positive form. When the positive form is realized, the negative forms are automatically eliminated. Prabhupada is very beautifully differentiating between dry renunciation and renunciation on the path of bhakti, or is differentiating between Falgu Vairagya and Yukta Vairagya. So, on the path of Falgu Vairagya, they reject the essentials. Everything can be used in the service of the Lord, but they reject all of that, thinking that it is not essential. But negation of the essentials is not real renunciation. One understands that yes, everything can be utilized in the service of the Lord, and so therefore that is true renunciation, Yukta Vairagya. In this context, the verse is quoted from the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, and that is Bhakti Pareshanubhava Virakti. So we know the famous analogy, when one eats, there are three results seen, that is Tushti, Pushti and Shuddhapai. What are the analogous effects? Tushti is analogous to what? So, Tushti, what's analogous to this in the verse? Yes, Bhakti. What is analogous to Pushti? Yes, Pareshanubhava. And what's analogous to Kshuddhapaya? Virakti. So as we were discussing, it is the bhakti which leads to tushti. When we speak of bhakti, what does bhakti actually mean? Goods, very good. So it is love. When you speak of bhakti, it indicates love and devotion. That is what gives satisfaction. Activity per se is not bhakti. What is the intention behind the activity, that is bhakti. And so therefore, Anyone can say, I have bhakti. But then when we speak of bhakti, it means love, loving devotional service. The love has to be there. Okay. Now anyone can say, I have love. Anyone can say, my heart is overflowing with love. You can't see it. Without trying to judge others, how can we ourselves understand whether an activity is being performed with love or not? Some thoughts? How can we understand, even while performing it, this is the result, of course, but even while performing it, in order to achieve this result, how can one judge, analyze one's own actions, whether they're being performed with bhakti? Yes, sir.
If it is true bhakti, then we won't mind the pains that comes along with the service. We won't mind.
Good point. Good point. One won't mind the pains, the difficulties, because we have heard the statement very many times. Love means sacrifice. There has to be some sacrifice for the object of love. That's love. If everything is just a cakewalk, then what? What's the big deal? Yes, bro.
Intention behind that activity is to please Krishna and not for any fame or name.
Not self-aggrandizement. It's only pleasure of Krishna. One could even say, I'm doing it for Krishna, it's not for me. Anybody could say that. But then, how does it manifest?
This thing others cannot judge.
Okay.
See, bhakti is a experience, just like rasa, cannot be explained.
Right.
Second thing, Prabhupada said, you can take certificate yourself.
Correct.
How much lust and greed is gone, sex desire, subtle or gross.
Yes.
So one can judge bhakti oneself. Very difficult to judge other.
Correct.
And just like that, we can say somebody is pure devotee, but we can label them. But unless until we become pure devotee, we cannot experience other.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Good point. Somebody would like to add something to that? Yes, bro.
If our service is pleasing to other devotees and authorities, then we can understand that it is pleasing to Krishna.
Okay, fine. That's also a good point. Pleasing to the other devotees, which will ultimately please Krishna. That's also a correct point. Samarth? Which two things? These two. Yeah, that's correct. Those are the results. Those are the results. But even the service itself, in the service itself, we can see how much when one is performing with love. When a mother performs a service with love, she's, for example, cooking for the child. How will she cook? Yes, can you say a little bit more?
She will see all the details, like whatever the services has to be done, or whatever the
cooking,
like the cooking has to be done. Then what all the things has to be taken care. The way has to be, ingredients has to be put up, and all the, like the paraphernalia has to be washed clean, nicely.
Right,
It
good.
has to be
Yes,
done on
that's the
time.
point. Yes, Kumar Krishna Prabhu may be definitely first-hand experience. So yes, so when there is love, then we are actually trying to please the object of love. That means there will be a quality of the service. There will be a quality. Anybody can say, I have love. Anybody can say, I have bhakti. Saying is easy, but it manifests in the quality of the service that is being rendered. When the quality of service is there, with the right motive to please Krishna, then Krishna is pleased, and when Krishna is pleased, one feels total satisfaction. Then one doesn't hanker for anything else. A nice pastime to illustrate the point. This is told by, we'll end in a few minutes. And this is told by forgetting the name of this devotee, who was at the 40th anniversary celebrations at Juhu. He was the MC there. Somebody remembers the name? No. This is 40th anniversary celebrations now, very recent. So this devotee tells this pastime anyway. So he was a cook. His service was cooking Rajbhog. So he was cooking Rajbhog, and at that time, Juhu temple was a tin shack. No. And in tin shack in summer, how hot it gets. We have some experience in Kunjbihari temple. So he was cooking Rajbhog, and in May, summer, he was sweating, and Western bodies, they get affected even more. They're not used to this. And so one day after his cooking and winding up, he was totally exhausted. And he went back to his tin shack. Where is the relief? It's still a tin shack. And he lay down totally exhausted. But at the same, he saw the photo of Radha Ras Bihari. And seeing them, the thought came to his mind, I'm feeling so hot. How much hot they must be feeling. And thinking so, he picked up a charmer which was lying there and began fanning them. And he relates his experience. He says that as he began fanning them, he felt cool breezes coming towards him. And within a few minutes, his exhaustion was totally gone. That's his experience. So that's the point. When one is performing service for the sole intention of pleasing Guru and Krishna, that is what leads to satisfaction, because Krishna is pleased. And the pushti, the nourishment, the faith comes by para isha anubhava, and that is direct experience of the Supreme Lord. When one experiences that how Krishna is reciprocating with me in my practices of devotional service, that gives a leap of faith in Krishna, and that faith is fundamental to nourishing our practices of devotional service. And when these two are there, then everything material seems to be dead, pale, insignificant. One has no taste for it. And that's the virakti. That's the vairagya that develops by the practice of devotional service. We'll continue our discussions tomorrow. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.